A little sore, he said. I will call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have roll call vote, please. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Wallace, Solly, Culbertson. Yes. Miller.
Yes.
Mayor Z.
Yes, it's going to be a long meeting, maybe. Citizens' comments. We have none, so no public hearings. We have reading and approval of minutes from December 10th.
We'll move approval of the regular minutes from December 10.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And we have the minutes from the condensed version from December 10th.
I will move on those minutes of the condensed version for December 10th.
I will second that. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. And we have the consent agenda consisting of the audit of city bills, the gambling report from the Eagles, and pay estimate number 27, which is close to final, not final, but it's got just a little bit left. Magnet Construction for the water treatment facility, and the revenue and expenditure report for November. I will move approval of the items on the consent agenda.
I will second.
Any discussion on any of the items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Petitions, requests, and communications. We have a donation to the fire department from Horton Community Chest. We just need a motion to accept the donation.
Yes.
That's very nice.
I'll move the acceptance of a donation from the Horton Community Chest for the Morse Fire Department.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Ordinances and resolutions. We have a resolution authorizing an interfund loan between the Capital Outlay Fund and the Airport Railway Extension Fund.
Railway?
Did I say runway? Did I say railway?
Yeah.
Just clarifying,
I've used most of my words this year, so I'm trying to find some
It's Monday.
that I haven't used, I guess. I guess one question I had about this, and I think maybe you answered it, but once that project gets funded, then we get that money back? Is that?
Yeah, so, and actually, the interesting part about this is we have an agreement with Superior that they're gonna fund the local share. We also have an agreement with them that they will front any money for this project if we need them to. And so one of the things that we talked about was, do we need them to do that, right? Because you're gonna wind up getting into a lot of paperwork going back and forth if we're gonna do that. So the grants are gonna come out for this and then reimburse us, and then actually they'll provide the local share for that. And once we get into the big project, that's the one that's really gonna stress out our funding when we start getting into millions and millions of dollars for this project. But then at the same time, they won't let us start a project like that without grant money. But the local share in that big project's gonna be, $800,000.
Sure.
So we normally do this on our other construction projects also,
Yep.
don't we? I mean, we transfer money in until we get going, and at the end, we take it back out, and just so we have things covered.
Yeah, and just one side note, I believe we closed on the Jerry Hench's purchase of, Jerry's, you say purchase of that 10 acres down in the industrial park. So I think we got a check on Friday that goes back into this capital outlay fund
Good.
of that money that we originally invested in that land.
Wow, good.
Was there a resolution made yet?
Yeah, we have to move the
I don't think there's-
resolution.
Okay, I'll move on the resolution authorizing the interfund loan for
Yep.
the airport runway extension project.
Second that.
Any further discussion? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Salvi, Wallers, Miller,
Yes.
Gullikson,
Yes.
Mayor Hughes.
Yes. And we have a resolution authorizing the submission of a Safe Routes to School planning grant application.
Yeah, and there's no money tied to it, so that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah,
It took us a little while to figure that out, talking, they have a new way of doing this program, and actually works through the West Central Initiative Fund, where they have people that will be assigned to work with this, and so, we basically, and Sandeep's writing the grant application, so we put it in for what we wanna try to do with it, and we're talking about all the schools, the University, St. Mary's, elementary school, high school, and to include the whole community, getting students from the west side to the east side, from all over. So the next step is for us to apply for this planning grant, and if we get it, I think Hancock's applying for one too, then what they'll do is assign somebody to that planning grant, and then basically you'll try to figure out if you can work up a project. And that'll include a lot of different things, survey work and stuff like that, so. There's a big group of people that are working on it. The superintendent, actually, we met at the superintendent's office, and there'll be all teachers and parents and university and St. Mary's, everybody will be part of it.
good.
Is this a state or a federal grant?
It's a state grant.
I will move the resolution authorizing the submission of a Safe Routes to Schools planning grant.
I will second that. Any further discussion on the resolution?
Is there, just a is there normally a city council approval for applying for grants? For what is?
Typically, we should, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't know, I just wondered if it
Uh,
involves the city,
Yeah,
okay.
and a lot of times what happens is the state will require that the city be the grantee. You know, the Denko grant, there's actually another one that's floating out there right now that we've been talking about, but they would mandate that the city has to be the applicant. And actually, the last time we applied for one of these, I think the county, I think it might have been applied for by the county, but the state issued it to the city. So then we found a resolution accepting the grant, but we never found a resolution authorizing an application for the grant. And then we found a resolution authorizing an infrastructure grant application for that Safe Routes to School grant. So it was kind of interesting that, I think what happened is everybody got all excited about it, got started on it, we're working on it, sent the paperwork in, and didn't track back to where it was supposed to track back.
But most of the grants are gonna require a local
I
contribution.
suppose in that
Would
little
be the-
contribution, okay.
Just for us knowing that it's gonna
Yeah.
cost us probably most of the time they're doing something.
Okay, good question. Any other comments? We'll have roll call for this resolution, please.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Gullikson,
Yes.
Wallers, Salvi, Mayor Hughes.
Yes. We have a resolution approving a water tower agreement with Infolink.
Yeah, and this is just a renewal. So there's been an agreement with Infolink ever since they started, I think, the system that they have here locally, and this one updates the agreement for another 5 years. They don't pay, actually, I tried to send the agreement through, and it never got to Sandy to get into the council packet, but right now they pay $240 a month to have 4 spots up on the water tower for antenna masts. And there's other companies up there, they're big companies, they pay a lot more money to be on top of the water tower, but at the same time, this is a local company that kind of got everything started here. Thinking, was it Andy Lopez that
Yep.
originally started that? So it seems like it's a fair agreement for another 5 years, and I talked with Josh
Kurt Pierce?
Kurpiers about it. And the only change in the original agreement that was in place was, as I indicated in the memo, originally they're talking antennas, now they have all kinds of equipment, radio equipment, all kinds of things, and we've actually run into that with Verizon and Sprint, dealing with some of the issues with the stuff that they're using now for sending out signals, and so we changed that one sentence in there, otherwise it's exactly the same as what it was.
There's a lot of stuff on top of the water tower.
There is
Is there?
Yeah.
a lot of stuff, and so we mandate that anybody that wants to do anything up there has to submit plans to our engineers, and then the engineers review it, and they'll determine whether or not it's okay to do what they want to do.
There's wires. Oh, that must be about that big around the wires that's come down. From
I
up
think
there.
there's actually a generator building now, because one of them wanted a generator
Yeah,
to ensure that there's always power for their
Huh.
system.
yeah.
So
Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So we have the resolution. I will move approval of the resolution approving a water tower agreement with Infolink Wireless.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? We'll have roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Phillipson,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Salvi, Wallers, Mayor Hughes.
Yes. City Manager's report. Before we get right into the newsletter, we'll take the 2020 license. Stone's Throw has applied for license.
Yeah, I think that's the last one.
Should be.
There's no longer a license at is it the Grand Hotel?
Grand Hotel.
So I think that's the first year that there won't be a license there.
I move approval of Stone's Throws Cafe's request for renewal of their on-sale liquor and Sunday liquor licenses pending approval of their insurance.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. City Manager report.
I mentioned just a little bit on the budget. You know, we actually start our new budget on January 1, so there's things that we started working on already, getting into that. We're gonna lose 2 more police officers. The one we kind of knew that I think Dimitri wanted to be a chief. He had applied for the chief's job after he got here and continued looking, so he found a chief's job down in southern Minnesota that he wants to move to. So, you know, we wish him all the best doing that. And we also had a police officer that was accepted to the State Highway Patrol Academy, and we'll start there here at the beginning of the year. So not much you can do about it. Reggie's already met with the Civil Service Commission to start the process of trying to find some other individuals. One of the things that we've talked about in the past is whether or not there's any chance to find other law enforcement officers that might want to fill in a shift here and there. And Reggie's been working that very aggressively, and I think he's got a few officers, maybe from the sheriff's office or the university, that might want to do that. And so we're establishing a part-time position and rate for them, and I kind of joke that we might have some uniforms that might fit some of those guys still, because some of them left our police department and went there, but that might be a good option in the short run. And the only other thing would be is if it came down to it being shorthanded for law enforcement, we might have to go back to the school and have a discussion about the school resource officer being a patrol officer or filling in that position until such time as we're back up to strength. But we'll see what happens with doing the fill. I actually have a draft letter to go out to all the water. The way I'm gonna address it is to all the water and sanitary sewer customers and property owners in Morris. That's who it's gonna go out to. telling them what's going on with the water plant and what they can do with water softeners. And, you know, the big issue that's kind of interesting is that softener companies don't like us saying that we're softening water, even though we have a lime softening plant. So we'll have a little paragraph in there kind of indicating that that's what their feeling is. And we're really gonna leave it up to the people to decide what they wanna do. People can get by without a water softener, we know that, because there's people that are doing it, and they're happy with that, and at the same time, we're not gonna tell them that you can get by without a water softener, because it's a personal preference. So I look at that letter going out right after the first of the year, and then everybody will have an opportunity, and if they got questions about softeners, they can contact the softener companies, and they'll give them the information on it, but you're gonna have to set it to the setting that we require. I think the one thing that was interesting is, a lot of people thought we're coming into houses immediately to catch them being out of compliance, and, you know, we're gonna be asking them to make these changes, so.
Well, and I think the big key on that is we're asking them to save money on their
Right.
salt side, because their water is more expensive, and why
Right.
not save the money? You know,
Yeah,
they don't
so-
have to spend it.
So if you do what we're asking you to do, you're gonna save money on water and you're gonna save money on salt from what you're doing right now. If you're still doing, a lot of people have already made the change,
Yeah.
you know, and, we'll go from there. But one of the things we're gonna do too is sit down with the softener companies and just talk to them, because they need to make sure that they're doing what we need done too.
I talked to one gentleman, and he actually had a newer water softener, but he wanted it checked, so he had another softener company come out and check it, and he said he was told that he was actually over softening the water.
Right.
So I suppose that it wasn't set to 5 grains, and
No.
but he said he didn't think he used that much salt anyway, but he may be used to how much salt he used to use, but he's got it squared away now.
So that'll be happening. I mentioned in the letter that the county, I think the county passed their new emergency operation plan. So we'll get a copy of that, and we'll bring it back to the city council and have you pass that, because we adopted it last year. And then I've been working on websites, so I just did a major edit of the new tourism website to kind of flush everything out. There's a lot more fishing lakes around here than what was listed before, and Lake Crystal is not one of them, so.
Well, you could
But,
fish there, I'm not really sure what you can.
Yeah,
Sure you
But I
can.
mean, even if somebody coming out here to western Minnesota, if they wanna stay in Morris and go to Big Stone or Traverse, or come back, and you could go over to Lobster, you could, I mean, there's so many different options
There's
that
a
you have.
lot of other little
Patty
lakes
and
within 10
Arden.
miles of our
It's-
town
It's amazing
that
when you
are
list them.
awesome fishing lakes, and the communities around them
But it,
also, so.
so that's, we're just, we're gonna get that up and running, and then, we've met with, actually Stacy and I met with, Iceberg to talk about an update to the city website, so we'll get going on that too. You know, and actually, one of the things that we'll do is we'll start asking people to visit our website once it's up and running, you know, and then there'll be additional information that they can find there. The engineers wanted to send out that, I don't know if you remember that brochure we sent out on water softeners. Everybody got one, you know, how a water softener works and stuff, and they wanted us to send it out again, but rather than do that, we'll just post it on our website, and people
Yeah,
can go
perfect.
there and look at it. And that's a good way to direct them to our website.
Perfect.
So that's pretty much it, unless you got any questions about anything. It was a good year for us again. I think we did really well this year, and not a lot of big issues for us. There's a lot of things happened in Morris this last year.
Yep.
I just have a question with, because wasn't Dimitri hired at a different level?
Sergeant.
He's a
Sergeant.
sergeant, so,
So does that mean you're looking for another sergeant?
Yes.
To do this? Okay, so to do the same
yes.
workload?
So
Okay.
they're opening up 2 positions. One's gonna be the sergeant's position, and the other one will be patrol officer.
Okay.
And then the civil service will take take that process and work it, and we'll see who applies for it.
So potentially, existing officer on their department could apply for the sergeant position and move up?
Yes.
Okay. Mayor Gies, you had some information on tourism that you sent. I tried to read through there, was there any information that you had found that I didn't read or see?
Actually,
Just as
actually, no. And the main thing was, we had talked about what's the definition of,
Okay.
of
Marketing.
marketing for lodging tax, and from what I found, there really isn't a great definition other than kind of what way we've been led
Okay.
to believe that that's what it is. I think that's absolutely right. I think Blaine is absolutely right.
That's pretty much
I
what I
haven't
read
seen,
into what I
seen
read.
that there's anything
Odd
extra
also,
that,
I just-
except for, I didn't find anything like that, so.
The one takeaway, and I appreciate you doing that,
Yeah.
the one takeaway I took from that, because there's always a question in the back of my mind. If you go to Minneapolis and stay overnight in a hotel tonight for the Minnesota Vikings football game, you're gonna pay huge amount of taxes.
Right.
That pay for the Target Center and pay for that. And it's like, well, how did they get away with doing a lodging tax for that? Well, that information tells you, because they went to the legislature and got special legislation that allowed them to do that for those particular things. I think Duluth had one for their aquarium, and
Yeah.
so there's a lot of places like that get special authorization for doing event centers and things like that, as opposed to the normal rule that's in place that allows you to do it for marketing.
Right.
So that kind of answered that question for me.
And I guess I didn't find anything definite, one of the questions was, if we put a sign up on the highway that says, with the lodging places listed, is that tourism, is it not? Well, and we thought, okay, well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. We don't think that it really is, but then some of us kind of think, well, maybe it should be. I never found anything that would back that up that says, yeah, that's definitely tourism. That's not. I don't think it's marketing. I think it's a great idea, but I don't know that it's really appropriate to spend the lodging funds for that, or lodging tax for that.
Well, we're doing some other advertising and we're contacting some other media to be using these dollars, so hopefully we are off and running and get some results from what we're working on doing, so.
Yeah, for sure, yeah.
That's where it should be spent.
Bottom line there is, results.
Bring people
It's
from
gotta bring people from
in
the outside.
to our area.
Yeah, the two big events highlighted now on this tourism website are gonna be Prairie Pioneer Days and the fair. But then at the same time, we have all these other things. I think they have Le Mans racing on Lake Hattie coming up here in February, and we got a copy of the brochure for that.
Oh, on Hattie?
So then we forwarded, it was on the page before, but I think last year they did it in Alberta on Lake Hattie.
They did. I thought
Yeah,
they
I
did it
think
on
so.
page. Oh, wow.
So we got a copy of the brochure and we sent it on to Click Content so that they can utilize that, and they'll start making some social media posts, and then once the website's up, and the last thing that we have to do is they're coordinating with Data that's who was hosting the old one, to end that one and start the new one, and then we'll be able to go in and start loading stuff right into the event calendar. So anything that comes up that would be of interest to people locally can get put on the event calendar, even, Crazy Days, all those kind of things. And then there'll be a determination made of what's actually gonna be marketed and how we're gonna market that. Could be in a blog, could be in actual media campaign, like the fair needs to be a media campaign, and then at the same time, now's a really good time to go out and get some footage of ice fishing and things like that, because that's the season that we're in right now.
Right. I'm a little bit concerned about, quite frankly, and we have probably talked about this a little bit, but I'm a little bit concerned about Prairie Pioneer Days now being a one-day event. Can we construe that is tourism? If it's heads on beds,
Yeah.
yeah.
I tend to still disagree a little bit with that it's heads on beds, because it did say in there for the marketing and promotion of your city or convention, so that isn't saying heads on beds.
Well,
to
no,
me.
you're right, it
I
isn't.
mean, if you're looking at, while you don't wanna step outside the boundaries, those boundaries are pretty wide.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the exact definition of disposition of proceeds that used, by the charter city or town to fund a local convention or tourism bureau for the purpose of marketing and promoting the city or town as a tourist or convention center. So, I don't read anywhere in there that says it has to be, so again, it's a broad definition, and I
Right.
don't keep using it, but as if we talk about Prairie Pioneer Days and
But-
only a one-day event, how,
Right.
it's still promoting
But then it also says
tourism in their county.
to disperse it to a tourism bureau to market your town.
Convention center.
Or convention center, you know, which we don't have either. Yes, I think we're doing the right thing where we're at right now, I think, but,
Well, and I think
Open.
we just need to keep talking about it.
yeah, yeah,
I
I
mean,
agree.
that's the big thing, because, you know, we wanna try to get people here, you know, and what's the best way to
Yep.
get people here?
But I think that's the bottom line, how to get people
Yep.
here without going and making it within those guidelines, which
Yep.
to me are pretty wide.
Yeah. Yeah, good.
That's all I have.
Okay, great. Any other business to come before the
Well,
council?
we also, last meeting, talked about our snow removal and what we're doing on our streets. It's just an idea, how many times, do we keep track how many times we plow snow in the winter? And if we don't, can we? So we know how many times our plows are out and doing the streets. So if we're talking about potentially banning parking on the streets, and we plowed the streets 8 times, or if it's 12 times, so how many times that it's a problem? So we have a rough idea. I had a few calls from people that actually listened in and were quite upset that we even were thinking about banning parking on streets. And I said, well, it's not gonna happen this year, we're gonna work on it. And I said,
Right.
when we get to it next summer and fall, when we change or do something, I said, if you have issues, that would be the time to come and talk to everybody.
Yeah, we can do that.
So and just for our information, it'd be nice to know
Yeah.
if we have, and I know last winter was a nasty one, that we probably were out a lot more, but if we have an idea, if it's, once a week, if
Yeah,
it's.
and I had people came up to me and said, well, where are we supposed to park our cars if we can't come home after work and park in front of our house? I go, because it's only overnight between a certain period of time, midnight and 6. So you can come home, you can park, so there's lots of little details in that too that.
Yeah, and that's just something we have
people need to know
To
about.
work on and look at.
But yeah, there's some years you hardly plow at all, and there's some years that you're
Right.
plowing every
Yeah.
3 days
Yeah,
when you get into it, so that's very good.
Just some
idea.
information
I
for
think
us
they
to-
probably have that information, but I'll check.
I would
with
think
you.
they do, but yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Good comment. Anything else?
I'm
Well, I'm
getting my purple.
I'm just getting
fever.
ready to stop.
Merry Christmas to everybody and have a Happy New Year. Be safe and we'll see you next year.
Do we have to do anything for the first of the year? We don't, as
No-
far as
no
we're just
election.
good at our,
No election, so I
just our
don't think
normal
we do.
meetings, so.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Cool.